Hi, I'd like to take some time today to walk through the newest features introduced in Secure IQ 3.20. And specifically, I would like to focus on the VMS capabilities that now exist within Secure IQ, making it a full-featured VMS solution, either by itself as a video-only configuration or in a access control plus video surveillance unified configuration. So today I'd like to cover three main things. One, how this interface is modular and scalable as a web-based client. Two, how the role-driven approach gives each operator or user, just enough VMS for their task. Number three, demonstrate how our workflow-driven design really supports the key tasks of a VMS, the monitoring, investigation, incident response. So first off, the modular and scalable nature of the product. This is a very component-driven interface. It's a web interface with the advantages of not having to deploy a executable on the desktop and maintain that through upgrades and remote desktop or silent install pushes. When you upgrade this web client from the central server, it upgrades for all users across the board. Then you further customize with features such as web views, and features such as operators, privileges, and roles. So we can drill down to the most important devices and most important features for that operator's roles and responsibilities, whether they are responsible for a certain building or site, whether they have access control or event monitoring responsibilities, or just video monitoring responsibilities. We can tailor the experience so they only see what they need. They're not distracted by other components, and we're all controlled by permissions. So jumping into a few workflows here. The first one I want to go through is really a basic video monitoring investigation to clip creation workflow. So here we're looking at a typical layout. This is a parking lot, and we can perform all of your core recorder functions through the interface here, double clicking to bring up full screen views of our cameras, and then double clicking to return to our previous layout. Selecting a single camera allows us to perform actions such as seeing the hit boxes, the motion alarms, all the things you'd come to expect from a live monitoring view. Or we can select multiple and scrub back in time to perform a review of previous activity. And then jumping back to live, we can continue our live monitoring. Now deselecting all the views, and I really want to focus on searching for a suspect. So we have cameras that are obviously bringing back object detection data. And if I go to my three-dot menu for this camera, I can see what I can search for based on the capabilities of that camera. It's not going to show a capability that it doesn't have. For example, this camera is not set up for motion detection, but is set up for object detection. So if I go to vehicle and I search for car, well, let's actually do people. We'll do people. There'll be fewer results looking at the parking lot, but it's going to automatically return results from the last hour. Instantly jump into results so that the operator has something to action on immediately, or they can refine that search to extend it beyond the last hour, or shorten the time frame, or go into other filtering where we can search for clothing color to determine regions of interest or behaviors such as dwell time and whatnot. So last 15 minutes we didn't see any people, so let's go back to the last hour. Now I will select a search result to review, and it's going to begin playing that search result at the instant that a person was detected. We can see them walking in the background. Now I can choose an action here. I can create a clip from this monitoring interface at the bottom. I can create snapshots. I can quick download those clips directly to my workstation. Or I can add to selection and then continue to review my results and find other instances where that suspect is present, and I want to add that to my clip builder to then add to a clip, which we'll walk through here in a moment. So let's look at what we've selected. We've selected these two, and we can see by the blue check marks that we reviewed these three. So we know what our progress is in our investigation for this camera. Now that I have my search results of interest selected, I will then perform an action and add those to my clip builder. I can see that the clip builder has now increased to 3 clips, and I can now go to that area to do further editing and manipulation of these videos. So these 3 videos that I have included in my clip builder, I can then perform actions such as store, which would permanently put them into the clip management area of the program. I could download them directly to my workstation, delete them, or combine. When a single search result is selected, we can also edit and change the time frames of that. So let's go ahead and pick those two. We're going to combine them into one clip. We can name them whatever we'd like. And combine. The processing will happen. Nothing has actually been pulled down from the recorder yet until we actually select the clip and then store it. Now we're actually pulling that recorded video from the recorder and storing it in our central clip management location. So that will take a few moments to complete. Once complete, we can go into clip management and see what we have stored. These clips can now be used to export to law enforcement, other agencies, or internal stakeholders, or they can be used as we begin an incident response activity and tie them to a full incident management case file. So we'll now jump into more of that event-driven investigative response or emergency response workflow. So here we have a list of events that have come into our system, and these have been triggered either by door forced. They could be another alarm that's coming from a camera. Any alarm that can be input to the secure system can be associated with an event. And then when we assess that event, then be put through a workflow or a set of rules that are determined by that event. Our event assessment window has loaded, and it's brought up the associated video with this door forced event. So we can immediately begin generating clips from this. We can jump between live and recorded playback modes. We can go through and see what the active causes are, and if there's other logged activated causes since the last time this happened, we can see those here. If we scroll over, we can go into an incident workflow and start a new incident because of this door forced. The door force can also be associated with a workflow, just a few predefined ones. They can also be custom defined with our workflow manager that I'll touch on in a moment. So we can go ahead and go through this predefined workflow, answering this is a real force door, yes or no, next. And these can be defined to whatever standard operating procedure your organization requires. All right, now we can see the summary. We can add additional attachments, so whether that's files, clips from our clip management suite. So let's add the clip we created earlier, attach that to the incident. We can add other journal entries and audit entries, or any file, whether it's a Word doc or snapshot from a cell phone or other recorded video. We can also associate this with other events. So multiple events could have been associated with this root cause, and we want to make sure those are all tracked together. We can also see the operational workflow that we went through, and now this can be all edited or downloaded for sharing with law enforcement or other external agencies. We can now go into the incident area, see the incidents that we have created, if they're open or closed, and review from here. To summarize, I'd like to emphasize that at this 3.20 release of SecureIQ, we now have a full-featured VMS baked into the solution. So whether you're a video-focused user or a unified access control and video user, you now have a very modular and scalable web client that's easy to maintain and deploy across PCs and tablets. The role-driven, just enough VMS approach lets you tailor the experience to each operator, improving their usability and security and control of what their roles and responsibilities entail. The new workflow-driven design supports real tasks from video monitoring investigation to event assessment, incident management, and even map-based situational awareness.